Askreddit Asks, has anyone ever gone through with a marriage pact? You know, like if we're not married by 30 we'll marry each other. How did it work out?
I made this pact with my best male friend in high school. When we were about 20, he told me that even if he got married before 30 and I still wasn't married, he would divorce her for me, which I found to be an odd statement. We went our separate ways and I didn't hear back from him until I turned 31. By this time, he was married and I was not. We spent the day together and he asks me, "Remember our marriage pact?" He wanted to divorce his wife for me. I declined. Edit. I had no clue this would blow up and it left a lot of people confused. So here are some additional details, some is cut and paste from my comments to others. He and I were best friends from age 15 to 20. Somewhere between that age is when we made the pact. Age 20, but before he met the wife. He tells me he would divorce if he happened to be married at age 30 and if I was still not married. A week after this convo, he tells me how he really feels about me and I decline. A month after this, he brings the girl into my workplace. Introduces her to me. He only just met her after he told me how he felt about me, which is why I didn't know who she was. And shows me the ring to explain that they are engaged. They get married and it was the same wife he wanted to leave for me when I heard from him again 10 years later. Yes, they did have 2 children and yes he is, or was, unhappy in his marriage. I have no clue if he is still married to this day. He lives a short walk away from where my parents live. I live 90 minutes away now. But I have no need to see how he is doing. No. We were never romantically involved as I only saw him as my best friend.
In high school my friend and I kinda had a crush on each other but nothing ever happened because he had a girlfriend. We promised that we would get married if we were both single by the time we were 40. We lost touch after we finished school and I ran into him a couple of years ago. Added him on Facebook. It turned out he became the biggest douchebag on my FB friends list and I'd probably rather die on a fire than hang out with him again.
That was a sharp left I was not prepared for.
He made a marriage pact with you while he was dating someone. Sorry to say, but he didn't become a douchebag. He was the same shit back then.
Kind of. I made one with my wife when we were kids. Like 14 to 15. We lost touch because we went to different schools. Had fairly different walks of life. Etc. Then randomly started talking on Facebook about 10 years later and ultimately got married about 3 years before the pact would have gone into effect. Edit. Added time context. We got married at 27.
So you're the kid whose girlfriend actually did go to another school.
I'm in HS right now and I have no fucking idea how these guys and girls know all these kids from other high schools.
I most definitely would have. I made a marriage pact with my very good friend in 10th grade, around 1988 or so, that we'd get married at 27 if we were both still single. We had every class together for 3 years straight. Got along famously, and were just greatly compatible. She went overseas for college and I joined the military. And she just stopped responding to letters after around 9 months. 1992. I get engaged, and suddenly run into her in a mall. I introduce my future wife. And my old friend loses her fucking mind. Right in front of my future bride and all. Middle of the shopping center. Screaming at me about how I betrayed our agreement. I belonged with her. Yada yada yada. Calm as can be. My wife asks her why she stopped writing me then. Like a light switch flipping. Old friend starts bawling her eyes out. And pops down on the floor. We hurried the fuck out of there. And I never saw her again. Bullet dodged. Closing parenthesis dot.
Jesus, what did your wife think of that?
Made a pact with my first love, high school boyfriend. We just started dating again 3 months ago after 10 years of being apart and he just committed suicide on Monday. I'm devastated. I really thought we were going to have our happily ever after.
Oh my goodness. I wasn't expecting this in your post. I'm so sorry. Words are not sufficient. Red heart. Holy shit. That's terrible.
I think the problem with these is that when you're young, you feel like 30 is ancient and like your life will be mostly over by then. When you get to 30 though, you're still just starting to figure things out. Same with 40 in some ways. Edit. With regard to the fertility issue people keep raising, I guess I never considered it intrinsically tied to marriage. I don't want kids, but even if I did, I'd rather have them alone or with a non-espoused co-parent than in a loveless contract marriage. I've seen situations where people have given themselves deadlines for having kids if they're still single, but a pact marriage to me is a different question.
Yeah, for the most part that seems to be the attitude with us young people. I'm 21, but I've got a pretty severe chronic illness. And 30 really seems like a world away from me.
Yes, my cousin did, and it was heartbreaking. She is 6 years older than I am. So 35 when this happened. And apparently the guy she made the pact with was a mama's boy cranked up to 11. The TLDR version. Made a marriage pact with someone she knew. Watched her cousins and friends all get married and or have babies back to back in the space of a couple of years. So they enacted their pact. Proposed Christmas Day. Married on Valentine's. Fast-tracked a pregnancy. In the first trimester things go south. Mama's boy involves his mother in their marital squabbles, who convinces him to leave his brand new pregnant wife. Wife gives the ultimatum. Show up for the birth or stay gone. Guess who is back living with her parents with a new baby and a divorce in the works? Wow. That dude sounds like a grade A useless douchebag. She'll definitely be better off without him. What was she gonna do? Move into his frickin' mom's house with him? I feel like puking. Kinda. My husband and I were best friends in 8th grade and were those kids that kinda hated everyone else at our school. We always said we were going to get married when we got older, because everyone else sucks, but never dated in high school because we just went down different paths. But stayed good friends. Started talking more again after high school. Started dating. And are now very happily married. Smiling face with smiling eyes.
Because everyone else sucks relationship sounds kind of fun.
Some good friends of mine are both gay and lesbian, a gay man and a lesbian woman. They decided if they didn't get in serious relationships they'd marry. They have 2 wonderful kids together and they are amazing people. They are still looking for their ideal same-sex partner. But it's very clear that they love each other and care much for their kids. Edit. Clarity.
I made a pact with a couple girls but forgot to tell them about it. So I'm single.
One day, you will be sitting on couch, under the bridge, and suddenly 10 girls appear demanding you marry them.
Sounds like anime.
I joined my high school graduating class in grade 11. It was a rural school and most people there had been classmates their whole lives. Come graduation and people were assigned partners for the graduation parade. I was assigned to a beautiful young lady who had a boyfriend a grade below us, while I had a girlfriend a grade below us. Some guys were ribbing me about my assigned grad date when another guy who was usually quiet spoke up and boldly stated, "I'm going to marry her." Everyone kind of just chuckled and we all headed to our next class. I was very impressed when I reconnected with my old classmates on Facebook years ago and saw that he did indeed marry her and they have grandchildren.
Oh, that's kinda sweet.
I had one of these with a friend. I'm now 33 and he's 35. Neither of us are married still, but I just don't want to marry him after all. And he doesn't really seem to want to marry me either. We were 17 and 19 when we made the pact.
Well, to play it up, might as well also make a divorce pact while you're at it. Yeah, instead of a marriage pact. Let's just promise to divorce each other 1 month after being married in case we ever accidentally end up in that situation.
If you wanted to get married you would have sooner. The pact is all about settling. One of my friends proposed a marriage pact sometime last year. I'll let you know in like 9 years.
Need someone here to set a reminder.
Opera deliver.
I'll prob still be on Reddit in bed with a bag of chips like I am now.
Remind me. 9 years.
Sort of. Had a real close friend in high school that was a social butterfly and, for whatever reason, liked to hang out with awkward nerds like me. One day she suggested a marriage pact if we were both still single at 35. And I agreed with a laugh because, hey, I didn't expect her to remember me among all her other friends and there was no way she'd still be single by then. After graduation her family moved clear to the other side of the country and I figured I'd just be another Facebook friend. But we stayed in touch and actually started talking more. I'm talking constant Skype webcam and phone calls way too late into the night. Turns out I was one of the few people that actually bothered to put anything into a continuing relationship. And about a year after graduation she confessed that she had fallen in love with me. That was 7 years ago. We're getting married in 29 days. Edit. Or shucks friends. Thanks. I still sometimes get amazed we worked out the way we did.
Somewhat. I met my current girlfriend on World of Warcraft 11 years ago. I lived in Maryland and she lived in Missouri. I told her one day a long time ago, I'm going to marry you one day. Years went by with on and off talking. I didn't speak to her for the entire year of 2015. I messaged her last February and soon after. I was living here by July 1, 2016. Tonight during our get-together we are having. I'm getting on my knee and asking her to marry me. Edit. Sorry for the late reply guys. But she said yes. Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. Thank you guys so much. I showed her this thread and it made her so happy. And thank you for the gold. I appreciate you so much. Reddit. Edit. To the few that think I've made this up. I totally understand. It doesn't feel real to me. Satanic worship posted in this thread. That's my wife-to-be. Thank you guys so much for everyone that took interest in this comment. I never imagined anyone would care.
Made one about 10 years ago with a very close friend, never dated, hooked up or anything like that. We just agreed this would make sense in the long run if we don't find our soulmates on the way to his 30th. He's a couple years younger than me. I'm now 30 and 6.5 months pregnant with the love of my life, not the guy the first made the deal with. About 2 months ago, I met him and his girlfriend at the Ogden waiting room. I came for a regular pregnancy check and they came for the pregnancy confirmation. We laughed because we didn't share the news with each other yet and we never spoke about the pact with our partners. Now we're both waiting our firstborns with different people and sharing pregnancy joy and stuff. Turned out better than we could ever imagine. Closing parenthesis.
I'm now 30 and 6.5 months pregnant with the love of my life, not the guy the first made the deal with. I get what you mean. But this sentence threw me for a little bit of a loop the first time I read it.
We met on a computer bulletin board system when I was 21 and in college. We both had ambiguous handles and didn't know each other's gender at first. Once he figured out I was a girl. He figured I was fat and ugly. I wasn't, because why else would I be hanging out on a BBS with a bunch of geeks? When I figured out he was a guy, I thought he must be in his 40s. I considered the age difference and decided I could maybe make it work. Turns out he was actually 14. I definitely couldn't make that work. This was awfully inconvenient because we were falling in love. I finally agreed to marry him if I were single at age 60. He eventually talked me down to 40. We tried dating other people but just ended up disappointing them because we were both in love with someone else. We talked pretty much every day. Usually via internet chat. Most of our relationship was long distance because we lived in different states or different countries. We got married when I was 29. He had just turned 23. Which seems a lot more respectable. We've been married 14 years.
My wife and I dated during that awkward summer between high school and college, and then she went her way and I went mine. We sort of joked about such a thing, didn't really say. But wouldn't it be funny if? Yeah, you know. That would work. I think I saw her for lunch like one time when we were 20-ish. Anyway, ran into her again at a friend's party when I was 28 and we hit it off. She'd just gotten divorced from a 2-year marriage and I was just back from law school. It was nice as we both knew the other wasn't a psychopath, more or less got on with one another's families. Had many of the same friends. Anyway, here we are almost 20 years on from running into one another again, married 16 years. Couple of kids. Life in the suburbs. All's good.
Yes and no. We made a pact when I was 21 and he was 20 that we would get married when I was 40 if both of us were still single. We couldn't wait that long and he asked me to marry him when I was 23. We've been married now just over 4 years. I think that if you're seriously making a pact like that, you need to ask yourselves if the reason you're not getting married now is a good enough reason. In our case, it wasn't. Edit. Some people asked, so the reason that we had for making a pact and not dating right away was mostly that we were in college and had no idea what was going on with our lives. We also had the fear that if we started dating, we would ruin the greatest friendship that either of us had ever had. Almost simultaneously, about 3 months after making the pact, we both had the realization that we would regret it if we didn't try, and also had the realization that we had basically been dating for quite a while already. Logistically speaking, it hasn't always been the most convenient relationship. We lived apart for over a year after we got engaged, but I wouldn't change anything about our journey so far. My good friend made me sign a bar napkin marriage agreement. I laughingly told her that we were both too messed up, on top of our drinking problems, to be getting hitched, but she was very adamant about it. From time to time she would remind me of it, and when I would ha-ha and hem-haw around, she would dig in her purse and produce this very fragile bar napkin. And I would relinquish any protests for her sake and agree. Ha-ha. Yes. Okay. Dot. We will at this age. Blah. Blah. There is more to the story. But eventually she took her own life. I had a lot of guilt, but that's for another time to tell. A week or so after her passing, her sister calls me assuming we were very close. She, the sister, had found the bar napkin and felt obligated to contact me. We talked for a long while on the phone. Another week proceeds and I attend a small gathering, tribute for my friend. Took me about a year to stop beating myself up over it.
I made one with one of my best friends. He has since come out as gay. So probably not happening. I also have a boyfriend.
What if he marries your boyfriend?
That would be awkward.
You could just live up to your name.
I have friends that did it. She's an awful person and cheated on him in the first 6 months. They had the most awkward wedding ever, but are still together. God, I wish they would divorce. It's not so much the pact they made when they were kids, just that she sucks.
Yeah, she does.
What made the wedding awkward?
That bitch.
I had a girl ask to make it by 30 marriage pact one time. I was about 28, so I didn't think it was very logical. I was also in a relationship, so I told her no out of respect to my GF. Truth be told, the relationship I was in was not great and we all knew it was going to expire. Anyway, I think she posed the suggestion just because she wanted to date me. The other posters in this thread have re-established my faith in marriage pacts. Not for me though.
Her proposing a marriage pact for 2 years away is basically just proposing.
Sue, did you date her?
I had one of those with a very hot guy who was smart, funny, great compatibility personality and sex-wise. He moved to another state equals, but we kept in touch. Still care for each other. And all that good jazz. He ended up catching HIV from a bitch of a GF, was a hooker, and she hid that and her diagnosis from him. He lost many friends and was so hurt by it. I stood by him, helped him find support groups and whatnot. And still am friends with him cause that's what you do when your friend suffers like that. Person is very optimistic about his diagnosis and plans to live a good long life. And honestly, if he hasn't found someone or is still up for it, I would probably just go through with it, still smiley face.
Me and my best friend since 6th grade had a running joke that once we were single we should give it a go because chances are we would end up getting married since she's the only person who puts up with my shit and vice versa. We got married last month after 5 years of dating. I love reading shit like this. Makes me happy.
How old are you two, if I may ask?
Kind of, but in reverse. We married young and have 2 kids together, we parent well together, and there's no one else that I could handle days-long road trips with. But we really suck at marriage. We jokingly made a divorce pact for 2020. Thinking we would both still be young enough to enjoy going out then and would have gotten the kids through some of the tougher transitional times of adolescence. As it turned out, we made it only a year longer than our pact, and we are currently in the process of ending our marriage. But there is no one I'd rather work peacefully through this with than him. Whether in 2020 or today.
We jokingly made a divorce pact for 2020. As it turned out, we made it only a year longer than our pact, and we are currently in the process of ending our marriage.
Wait.
What year is this? How long was I asleep for? Exclamation mark. Dot.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to support the channel, and above all, have an excellent day, you incredible people.